My entitled mother, who I went no contact with, suddenly shows up to my private birthday party, demanding that I come home to her and leave my grandmother, despite the fact that she surrendered legal custody of me over to my grandma. And I'm honestly still shaken up by the way she acted, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm gonna need to give some backstory because there's a lot to take in. For starters, I was parentified and forced to devote 99% of my free time to my younger brother. I then got fed up and ran to my grandmother, and my parents eventually surrendered legal custody of me over to her. There's a lot more I could talk about, but this is essentially the basics. But to jump to the present day, things have been going smoothly. I'm doing well in school, and I'm taking some extracurriculars such as robotics and the debate team, and I still have time to read and hang out with friends. I have started to communicate with my dad as well. Never in person, but it's just over the phone, and this was my decision. And it's mostly just small talk. I talk about school and classes, and he gives me updates on my little brother, who we will call Matt. Matt is not his real name. Now, it's important to note, I've not said a word to my mother directly since the day custody was given to my grandmother. The last time we spoke, my dad told me that Matt had finally realized that I was no longer around and became more agitated. They hired a nanny to help out, but both my parents were still forced to cut back their hours, and that was about a week and a half ago. Well, this past Saturday, I had my dream birthday party, which was themed after books. My birthday cake looked like a stack of books, snacks were themed after literary genres, and everyone came dressed as a book character. I came in dressed as Sherlock Holmes. We had a very cozy venue all to ourselves, and it was great. It was a very chill and very relaxed party. My grandmother hired security for the party with a strict list of who was allowed. This was due to a couple of bullies at school who heard about my party and threatened to crash it. The party ended after a few hours, and most of the guests left. The ones left were my grandmother, myself, one of the guards, and my two closest friends. I excused myself to go to the restroom, and when I came out, one of my friends met me halfway down the hall. She tried to push me back into the restroom, saying my mother had shown up and was demanding to see me. Now, here's the thing. I told nobody from my family about this party. Not my dad, not even the family members who supported me. And this is because of this exact possibility. I also didn't post about it on social media. I heard yelling from my grandmother and decided to confront the situation myself. The security guard was holding my mother back, and my grandmother was livid. The second my mother saw me, she became irate, screaming that I was a disgrace, that she was never going to let me just cut her off, and if I knew what was good for me, I would come home. But here's the thing, I didn't feel scared or even angry. I was just tired. So I kind of let out a sigh. I pulled out my phone and told her I was calling the police. It was up to her if she stayed to face them, but either way, I was filing a no contact order. Well, when I said that, she went pale. She screamed at me one last time and then ran off. She then got into her car and then sped away. I was glad it didn't happen during the party, but it kind of left me shaken. Needless to say, my grandmother and I will be speaking to our attorney tomorrow. I'm still not sure how she found out about the party, which is what spooks me the absolute most. I mean, do entitled parents like her just have some ability that lets them repeatedly attempt to screw up their kids' lives? I'm starting to feel like I'll have to watch out for my mom for the rest of my life, and I'm honestly so sick of it, and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, that really is awful. And it really does sound like the mom in this situation is a massive piece of garbage. From what the original poster has described and went on to explain, this lady is completely obnoxious, and it was very necessary for her to separate from this mom, which is altogether just really sad. Like, the original poster in this scenario probably would have wanted, in some kind of alternate universe, to have their parents involved in this fun party, but because of their past of being absolutely awful, as well as straight up neglecting the original poster, it simply made it impossible for them to ever be involved in this person's life. So honestly, to the original poster, I'm so sorry this happened, and I totally understand where you're coming from, because I would have been creeped out as well if my family member who I intentionally don't want to talk to somehow found out about my private party, and the fact that she showed up and yelled at you is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover my scar and wearing a bikini as it triggered my friend? Because right now, she's upset with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I had a cancer scare a few years back and had a biopsy done on my upper leg. The scar has now faded, but it is still fairly noticeable, and it's about 7 centimeters long. Thankfully, it was only a scare and nothing came of it. For a while, I was insecure about it and stopped wearing skirts or tight leggings where you could see the outline of the scar, but now that I've accepted that it's gonna be there forever, I started to wear whatever, and I realized nobody cares about it apart from the odd question. Well, we went to the beach yesterday as a friend group, and I decided to wear a bikini. I was excited to get a tan, and my friend Anna brought her other friend by the name of Dana. I have met her before, but don't know her very well. However, I do know she started a fundraiser for her mom who is fighting cancer right now. Dana's family situation is quite difficult as her dad passed away recently, and her mom has stage 4 cancer. So needless to say, Dana is juggling quite a lot. I came earlier than Anna and Dana, so I was already in my bikini when they joined us, and Dana was nice to me and asked me about my new job. Then Anna went to say hi to the others, and Dana mentioned my scar and recognized that it was a biopsy. She then said something to me that honestly blew my mind. She asked me if I could wear a beach cover-up and that it was triggering to her and very insensitive of me as I know her mom is going through it right now. Well, I said no, I'm here to get a tan, and the cover-up will ruin that. Well, Dana didn't say anything, but she also didn't talk to me for the rest of the day. Well, fast forward to today, and Anna texted me telling me that Dana told her what happened, and while she agrees that Dana's comment was weird, she thinks that I should have given her a free pass as she is not in the best place mentally right now. But I said it was really weird, and no, I wouldn't. Now, I genuinely don't think I'm in the wrong, and I think she's just being really weird about the whole situation. Obviously, if I'm in the wrong, I want to apologize. So I seriously need to know, am I the jerk here? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. I don't think that you're in the wrong for wearing a bikini and being proud of something that you were previously insecure about. Like, for starters, it's none of Dana's business how you got that scar on your leg, and for her to seriously try to control your behavior as if you're triggering her in some kind of way, while also being like, wow, you're insensitive for not covering up. Like, that, in my opinion, is very obnoxious behavior, and that is so unbelievably uncalled for, it's not even funny. If someone has a trigger, guess what? That is your responsibility to manage. If someone doesn't follow some hidden protocol that they don't know about, then that's your job to deal with that personally, and not something you should try to enforce on other people just to try and be controlling and weird about it. Now, there's obviously nuances here, but for her to be like, wow, you are really insensitive for having a scar, and you're really triggering me right now, especially with my mom. Meanwhile, the original poster came there to wear a bikini and get a tan. They weren't going there to try and trigger Dana, and for them to imply that that's exactly what they were doing is really uncalled for. So I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think Dana was completely out of line for the way she acted, and it is definitely not your job to manage someone else's emotions. Am I the jerk for ordering spicy food that my husband can't eat? Because right now, it's causing major problems in my house, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I've been with my 28-year-old husband for 9 years, and we've been married for 2 years this summer. We have a daughter who is 7 years old, and we rarely even fight. And if we do, it has been more major and serious things. But this, what to me was a small issue, is now turning into the biggest argument we have ever had. So the problem is that me and our daughter love spicy food. I always have, and ever since I felt comfortable with her trying it, she has loved it as well. Sure, we couldn't compete in a spice eating contest, and even though our tolerance is high, it is not extreme. But my husband absolutely hates it. He is one of those people who thinks spice is unnecessary and only likes to use salt and pepper. Now, this is not a problem. Sometimes I make a batch that suits his taste, and then another one for me and our daughter. Sometimes me and our daughter will just eat how it is to his liking, as too little spices is easier to handle than to have too much as it would be for him. Now, this Saturday, he was away with friends to go pick up some car parts. It was a 12-hour drive in total, and they left at about 9 o'clock. I went ahead and ordered from an Indian place that our daughter has as her favorite. My husband also likes this place and just orders something mild when he eats from there. Since my husband was not home, I did not order him anything as I thought that they would have eaten it on the road. When he got home, he greeted us, then immediately went to the fridge and saw some boxes left of food. But when he opened them, he obviously noticed that he could not eat any of them. Now, when he saw this, we argued for about 5 minutes. The consensus of the argument was him saying that I should have either thought about him and ordered something for him, or I should have asked him if he had eaten anything or just wanted anything. But I argued that I probably would have done so if it was just a few hours that he was away. But he was away for over 12 hours and came home about 4 hours after we usually eat. So I assumed that he had eaten something in the process. Now he has barely talked. He cooked dinner for himself because, in his words, I can't be bothered. He texted me from the living room when I was cooking for me and our daughter that he hoped I was happy to have my food my way. He is extremely weird about this, and he has never acted this way about something like this, and I'm getting even more confused by it all. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should should I do? Okay, so for starters, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you're just getting food that you enjoy, and he's upset that he can't have it as well. The food you and your daughter like is clearly too spicy for him to handle, and that is clearly something that's bothering him to some degree. But with that in mind, like, what in the world were you supposed to do? Were you supposed to read his mind on his 12 hours on the road? Were you supposed to know just all of a sudden that he wanted something and that he didn't eat something on his way back to your house? Like, your husband's acting like you don't think about him at all, but in reality, you've made a lot of accommodations to help him out, and it really seems like he's not acknowledging that in the first place. Like, what happened to just straight up communication from your husband? Like, why not just say something instead of being weird about it? So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your husband's being very weird about all this, and I think if he really wanted some food, he definitely should have spoken up. My entitled roommate stays up all night long, then has the audacity to complain that other people are complaining about her. And I'm honestly so annoyed at my roommate, and I truly hope that she finally just shuts up. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a college student, and along with that comes my roommate. Now, unfortunately, the dorm rooms are all thinly walled, meaning our neighbors can hear even the slightest noises. My roommate has a new boyfriend who she likes talking to, but she talks to him late at night. Our hall has quiet hours that begin at 10 o'clock p.m., meaning the noise has to be kept to a minimum, or you might get in trouble for being too loud. It starts with a warning, then it moves up to fines, then after this is termination of the housing contract. She has gotten a warning from our neighbors a couple of times previously, and even had to go talk to the hall director once directly. And yet, with all this in mind, she got all mad when she now has to pay a fine because she was up until 12:30 p.m. talking to her boyfriend on speakerphone. For context, she is a loud talker to begin with, and her whisper sounds more like a regular speaking voice, which I have no problem with. I mean, I am the same way. However, not only did she complain to me, she complained to the neighbors that told on her. Now she is not in good standing with them either. She told me that she was going to go to the housing directors and file a complaint against our hall director, as well as our neighbors, because they make her feel that she does not have any freedom in her own room. Now, at this point, I don't know how this is gonna go over, and I seriously don't know what to do. This is funny to me because your roommate sounds incredibly spoiled. They sound like one of those people who literally had no responsibility growing up, and they also never owned up to anything wrong that they did. And here's the thing, I know exactly what they're talking about here when they're saying the walls are thin and you can literally hear everything. So for her to be going on and on at midnight of all times, and then turning around and being like, wow, I can't believe anybody told on me. It's like, seriously, what are you talking about? You can't be so loud all night and expect people not to get upset. So hopefully the message that your roommate is being way too loud finally sinks in, because based on what you're describing, she sounds absolutely obnoxious, and I truly feel so sorry that you've got to put up with her in the first place. Am I the jerk for calling the police on some parents after they leave me with their kids until 6 in the morning without letting me know exactly where they are? Because right now I'm being called a jerk as they claim that their phones died and they had no way of getting in contact with me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so I was asked to sit for a date night while the parents went to a wedding yesterday. I was supposed to watch a baby boy that was 13 weeks old, as well as his sister who's 2 years old, and this was going to be from 5 o'clock until 11 o'clock p.m. This is also not my first time watching either of these children. Now, our evening went as smooth as it could with a toddler and a baby. I got them to bed by 7:30 and started putting the house back together. At 10:15 p.m., I got a text from the parents asking if I could stay until 12 o'clock p.m., and I told them that's fine and to have fun. Well, 12:15 rolls around and I haven't heard from the parents. I sent a text asking if they're close and I didn't get a response. I can be pretty anxious, so my mind started thinking that they got into an accident or something bad happened. I didn't hear from them for about 5 minutes, and then I decided to call, but I still got no answer. Fast forward to 1 in the morning, and the baby has already woken up to feed again, and I'm just overly anxious at this point. It's 1 in the morning, and I have no one to call to calm me down. I would never assume that a late parent is just a late parent at 1 in the morning, so I am just on our city's Twitter page where they will let you know about road conditions and accidents, and I'm trying to see if anything happened within the last hour and a half, but nothing comes up. 2 o'clock in the morning rolls around, and I kid you not, I have called around 15 times and received no answer from either parent. I wanted to call the police at this point, but also didn't want the kids woken up and taken out of the house at 2 in the morning. I was hoping that the parents would walk in, and although I would be angry, I would know that at least they're fine. But again, that did not happen. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I finally decided to call the police and report the parents missing, and I told them that I couldn't keep them after having them all night. The police showed up at 5:22 in the morning and took a statement from me, me. I was asked for the parents' numbers, and the police asked if I could stay with the kids until they figured out exactly what to do. Well, at this point, the neighbors are outside, and the woman directly next door told me that she could stay with them. But I didn't know their relationship to her, so I told her I'd wait with the kids just for a little bit longer. Finally, at 5:48 in the morning, they roll up and are greeted by the police. The mom ran into the house, thinking something had happened to the kids, but then she sighed when she saw why they were there. She said to me, "Our phones died and we didn't know how to get home from the venue." And when she said that, I was fuming. I called them irresponsible and the worst parents I've ever worked for. I demanded that she pay me on the spot, and then I left. I then got a long message about how this is my job and I'm such a huge jerk for disrespecting them, as well as for calling the police. She felt like I could have left them with the neighbors or called the emergency contacts and not the police. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are not only not the jerk in this scenario, but the parents are some of the worst parents I think I've ever heard of in my life. Like literally, these people suck completely. For starters, they tried to extend your stay at their house by an hour, and then they extended that for literally the entire night. Like these morons didn't show up until 6 in the morning, and somehow that's your fault when you're freaking out not knowing what to do. Which, by the way, in my opinion, I think you did the right thing. Calling the police and getting them involved truly was the right move to make, especially when the parents aren't answering their stupid phones. Like for them to try and twist this around and be like, "No, this is your fault. How dare you call the police on us?" It's like, lady, what are you talking about? You are 100% at fault, and you are a terrible mother for letting this happen. If their phones actually died and they didn't have any power, then they should have gone to some store that's open and bought a charger. Like I'm pretty sure most gas stations, at least in America, would have some kind of cheap charger they could get to at least bring their phone back to life. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. The parents in this are absolutely incredibly irresponsible, and I just can't imagine trying to blame you for trying to be safe. I don't want to go on a family trip, all because last year when we went on this trip, it was an absolute nightmare for me. And right now, my husband is saying that if I'm not going, then he wants to take our son with him, which is an idea that I'm completely opposed to. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my partner is in a car club, and every alternate year they do a long weekend trip. And this is somewhere across the country, which normally involves a lot of travel. The schedule is really full, with lots of events starting early and gala dinners and award nights, so it goes quite late. Now, we as a family went on one in 2022 when our son was just 1 year old. To say the trip was a disaster was an understatement. I spent the majority of the time by myself with our son, while my partner and his family were off doing the car events. I had to travel by myself, including a flight with a layover and hire a car, and our son didn't sleep well. He was teething and away from his normal home and routine, so I was running off of like no sleep for nearly 5 days, which I had to deal with alone because he had big days ahead of him. So you can probably pick up that I was super uncomfortable and very stressed out. My partner has now said that the car club has announced the dates for this year, and he wants us to go as a family. It is a 4 to 5 hour drive, and our son will be 3 years old. His car needs to be show ready and would not fit the car seat, as well as the particoat, luggage, car cleaning and polishing kit, as well as any potential roadside repair kit. Basically, it's a classic car, so it has no air conditioning, and also as a classic car, suspension isn't great, so on long, windy, bumpy trips, I definitely get car sick. So I will have to take our son in my own car and drive there and back on my own. Now, I've said I don't want to go, and to be honest, I still haven't forgotten how terrible the last trip was. He thinks that I'm being unreasonable, and I just need to get over it because it's a fun thing to do as a family. He's also said that if I don't go, he wants to take our son, which I don't agree with either. They have fully booked days and events going into the night, so I don't understand logistically how he's going to look after our son, and I absolutely do not want him to be left with someone that we don't know to look after him while he goes out. He thinks I'm not being supportive and missing out on an opportunity to spend quality time together, but I seriously do not see it that way. So honestly, I really need to know, am I the jerk for not wanting to go to this car club trip, or for even wanting my partner to take my son? What should I do? No, I definitely do not think you're the jerk at all for not wanting to go to this trip. Like literally last time you had to do all of this by yourself. Like your husband's going off and partying and doing all this other fun stuff while you're literally running on no sleep, you're taking care of your son, and you're handling all this other logistical stuff that is truly a nightmare. Like this guy just does not respect the fact that you did so much to make sure that he was happy at that trip, because you very easily could have flipped a switch and said to him, okay, it's your turn to take take over, and then went off to leave him with your kid, who, by the way, is really cranky and got no sleep. So no, I don't blame you at all for being like, nope, I'm not gonna go with you this time. I have ridden that circus and I'm not doing it again. But on the subject of him taking his son with him to this trip, I can understand your concerns, but also I think it would be really funny if he did actually take your son, and then he would be solely responsible for taking care of his son and getting a very serious taste of his own medicine right there at this party. And sure, I understand all of your concerns about not wanting your son to go with your husband to this event, but it also would be a fantastic way to see revenge take its course and basically remind your husband of all the good that you do in his life. But overall, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think it's completely reasonable for you to say, no, I'm gonna sit this one out. And in my opinion, if your husband really wants to take his son with him on this trip, then I think if I was in your shoes, I would allow it to happen and willingly let chaos unfold. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.